could be fascinating.
There was also always a sense, wasn't there, that perhaps because of America's outsized position in the world, economically, militarily, and so on, that the church didn't necessarily need a voice to come from that part of the world.
Well, I think it went the other way. I think the assumption was you couldn't have a pope of a superpower.
Right.
Because to some extent the Pope always, as it were, challenges a superpower. However, I think that logic has changed now because of what's been happening in America. And many of the cardinals kept saying to us in the last couple of weeks, nationality in this conclave doesn't matter. If it's the right man, then he could be from anywhere.
It's about reaching out. It's about evangelizing, as you were saying. It's about trying to bring more into the fold.
Or rather, to start with the proclamation that Francis always started it, which was that God loves you and that you have a dignity. That's the first message. The rest, in a sense, follows on from that.
Ali?
Well, it's a lot to do with the personality of the man we'll see emerge from the balcony. Some have been seen much more as politicians. Some have been seen as theologians. Some as preachers and evangelists. All of that will be revealed shortly when we get the name of the cardinal who's won and the name they'll take as Pope.
And as we see the American flag there in the crowd, South Africa next to it. Really quite extraordinary scenes. We are high up in our broadcasting position here above St. Peter's Square, but we can feel the electricity of this moment, the atmosphere, the joy, pure joy of these pilgrims, I suppose, greeting the news of a new Pope. Hello to you. Welcome to the Vatican and St. Peter's Square here in the heart of Rome, where a new era is about to begin for the Roman Catholic Church. In the last hour, a successor to Pope Francis has been elected. White smoke was seen rising from a chimney high above the Sistine Chapel, much to the delight of the tens of thousands of people who'd gathered here, and indeed many millions around the world, watching this moment in history. Well, the 133 cardinal electors had finally found one among them to lead the Catholic Church, and we are still waiting to hear who that person actually is. Very shortly, we hope, he will be walking out onto the main balcony here above St. Peter's Square, just over my shoulder, to greet the crowds and to proclaim his papal name and to move forward with the church. Our religion editor, Ali Maqbool, is here with me. We didn't expect this to be so quick, did we?
No, and the drama of the moment really can't be understated. A serene, sunny, early evening in Rome just turned at the moment those first bits of white smoke started to emerge from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. A buzz went through the crowd. It was a signal that a person had been chosen among the 133 inside the Sistine Chapel, that they'd come to a two-thirds majority. The bells of St. Peter's started to peal, which was the signal for anyone close to here to pour into the square to ultimately see the revelation of who had been chosen. We'll hear the papal name they will take. We'll hear about the direction that this church of 1.4 billion might take in the coming years, and of course who that new global voice will be. It has been an extraordinary 45 minutes or so since we saw the smoke emerge. We had bands process into the square, and as I say, tens of thousands now filling every street leading out of here.
But interesting as well for those people who are not sure of the choreography of all this, that we get the news that a pope has been chosen. Their name.
No, they have time to prepare. They're asked if they want to take up the role. They go into what's called the room of tears to get ready. They pray, they meditate if they want before that, but they get ready And then we still won't see them immediately. We'll hear the protodeacon who will come out, first tell us the name of the cardinal who's been chosen, the name they choose to take as Pope. They originally would take their own names, but then we had a Pope, cardinal who was named Peter, and he thought it might be a bit of an insult to be called Pope Peter again after the person considered by Catholics to be the first Pope, the Apostle of Jesus, Peter, after whom the basilica behind us is named, the square is named. And so that tradition of taking a different name, of someone they admired perhaps, as someone they wanted to emulate, was taken. So we will hear that, and it will be after that that we'll hear, we'll see the curtains part again, and we'll see the new Pope emerge.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because lots of talk when the conclave began as to whether there were those who perhaps felt that perhaps Pope Francis had gone too far in their idea of what a liberal church should look like, that perhaps we might get a retrenchment, a move back. That belief, that fear, it doesn't feel as if those factions were there, because this decision came pretty quickly to find a 2/3 majority.
It's difficult to say until we see the person who emerges on that balcony, what was going on inside. But just to say that the conversations about who the Pope should be, or what is needed by the Church and the world, don't start when conclave starts. They were going on in this city, yes, informal meetings, but in coffees and dinners outside, as soon as we heard of the death of Pope Francis, and cardinals started to descend on Rome. And it was interesting to sample some of the thinking over that time, and even during those couple of weeks, there was a mood change. Even some of those who had been critical about what they saw as the radical nature at some points of the Pope Francis papacy still saw the way the crowd, for example, during the funeral responded to talk of the causes that Pope Francis had championed. They got to reflect on the impact that Pope Francis has had on the world, on the way the Church reached out, on being a voice for the voiceless. And there was some sense that actually there was an appreciation of that over the last couple of weeks, even from some of those who had criticised him. So the talk started to be of continuity, but perhaps with a way that brought everybody along, because there was a criticism of Pope Francis that he would go ahead and not necessarily spend too much effort in combating those who were opposed to his moves. So that was what the talk was, and perhaps that figure did emerge.
All right. Aleem, thank you for that. Aleem Maqbool, our religion editor there. You're watching BBC News.
You're watching BBC News. I'm Marianne Mashiri here at the Vatican, and we continue our live coverage of the announcement and election of a new Pope. You can see there the close-up shot of that famous St. Peter's Basilica balcony, the red velvet curtain draped across it. And it is here that in moments we will be hearing those famous words, Habemus Papam. Those words, which will be spoken in Latin, will herald the beginning of what many believe could be a new era for the Catholic Church. Those words will be read by the proto-deacon of the College of Cardinals, the French prelate Dominique Mamberti. He will walk out onto the balcony and he will read in Latin, Annuntio vobis gaudium magnum, Habemus Papam. I announce to you a great joy, we have a Pope. He will then name the new pontiff. First of all, the first and middle name of the chosen cardinal in Latin, and then the last name of the chosen cardinal in Latin, and then finally the new name of the chosen cardinal. This is the moment that the crowds are waiting for. And in times gone by, in the last conclave, we waited, I think, about 66 minutes for the announcement of Jorge Bergoglio, Pope Francis. It's now been exactly 60 minutes since the smoke started to issue out of that famous chimney atop the Sistine Chapel. You can hear the helicopters flying overhead. The crowd continue to pour into St. Peter's Basilica. It is so crowded now. And let's take this opportunity to bring in Madeleine Tehan, a former associate editor of the Catholic Herald. Madeleine, thank you for joining us. And if I can ask you, first of all, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling absolutely amazed. I'm quite astonished at how quickly we've seen the white smoke. I think everyone was expecting a much longer conclave based on the fact that the cardinals didn't know each other as well as they have in the past, because obviously Francis created a great number of cardinals. But we're all taken by surprise, and I'm very excited. I'm rather nervous. I imagine I'm feeling like a lot of Catholics out there at the moment across the world.
So where are the nerves coming from, Madeleine?
Well, he's the successor to St. Peter, the 267th Pope. I suppose the nerves are that we are at a time, I think the church is very much at a crossroads. I feel like Pope Francis's papacy was so unique, and in some ways it was quite divisive. So I suppose the nerves are about, what sort of pope are we going to have? Are we going to have someone who will continue Francis's legacy with that sort of emphasis on pastoral sort of approach to things, with perhaps less attention to doctrinal detail? Or in fact, are we going to have a pope who wants to sort of make things clearer again? It's going to be very interesting. So I suppose that's why I perhaps feel a little bit nervous, is which way are we going to go? Because I really did feel that at this conclave there was a real battle for the soul of the Catholic Church.
And what do you think the length of this conclave tells us about that decision? It hasn't taken the cardinals long. They decided after just 4 votes, 2 days, same timing as Pope Benedict XVI. What does that tell us, do you think, about the way in which this important decision was made?
Well, I think obviously we have to trust that obviously the cardinals have discerned and they've taken it seriously. And obviously we've had the general congregations going on since Pope Francis died. So it's not like the conversations just started in the past 2 days. But I suppose most people will be thinking, okay, it's been quite a short conclave. Perhaps it is a cardinal who is very well known, very well established globally and within the Vatican. I mean, there has been a sense that I've picked up that in fact they want someone who is perhaps an Italian, because they want someone who is familiar, because there's that real feeling that the church as an organisation needs to be well oiled again. It needs to be properly run. It needs someone who knows how to handle that Vatican bureaucracy. So such a short conclave, to me personally, I mean, I'll probably be proven wrong, would suggest it's somebody who is very well known and perhaps very au fait with how the Vatican works, and well known both in Rome and across the world.
The legacy of Pope Francis looms large, does it not, over this next papacy? And as you mentioned there are different avenues, different roads that this Pope could take the Roman Catholic Church right now. And there are also challenges as well, to be frank.
Yes, there are huge challenges. And I think that the thing about Francis's legacy...
Let me just interrupt you there. Madeleine, let me interrupt you there. We have some movement on that balcony. I think we can expect Dominique Mamberti to come out and make the announcement. And there he is. Let's listen in.
annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. Habemus papam. Eminentissimum, ac reverendissimum Dominum, Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Prevost, qui sibi nomen imposuit Leonem XIV.
We are just hearing that the new Pope is Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost. He is the first Pope to hail from America. He is the first American Pope. There is applause amongst the audience now, amongst the faithful, and you can see the cardinals there gathering on the balcony. Robert Prevost was born in Chicago. He has lived in Peru, though, for many, many years, so he's also a naturalized Peruvian citizen. But this is an historic moment for the Roman Catholic Church. He's a 69-year-old cardinal. He was appointed by Pope Francis in September 2023. From the Augustinian order. A balanced figure. He's known for his solid judgment, he's known for his capacity to listen. He's seen as having many of the qualities a pope needs. It's important to underline, though, that Robert Prevost, Cardinal Prevost, has spent much of his life outside the United States. He joined the Augustinian order at the age of 27. He was then sent to study in Rome at that young age, at 27. Following that, he spent many years as a missionary in Peru before being made Archbishop in Chiclayo. He's visited orders all over the world. He speaks Spanish. He speaks Italian. As I mentioned earlier, he was created by Pope Francis in 2023. In 2023, Pope Francis made him prefect of the Vatican's dicastery for bishops. Now, this role made him responsible for advising the Pope on picking new bishops around the world. So he was very close to the Pope. The Pope trusted him with this important job.
Very much there. Francis himself, yes, what can we say?
He is a moderate, he's considered a centrist. He's considered similar to Pope Francis in his viewpoint. He's considered by many as a middle-of-the-road candidate, someone that could potentially please both sides. Let's bring Madeleine back in. Madeleine, thank you for staying with me. And what do you make of the first American